Hello art and design students, today we're diving into the fascinating world of semiotics, the art and science of interpreting signs and symbols. Whether you're analysing an advert, selecting a colour palette or designing a logo, understanding semiotics will give you the tools to create powerful, meaningful designs that speak directly to your audience. So what is semiotics? Well, at its core, it's all about understanding how visual elements communicate ideas and emotions. You'll learn how to break down everything from colours and shapes to typography and symbols, uncovering the hidden messages behind what you see and create. Throughout this video, I'll be guiding you step by step through some key concepts using the presentation slides provided. We'll be covering how semiotics works in design, looking at real-world examples, and exploring how different interpretations can alter the impact of your visual message. By the end, you'll not only be able to decode visual language, but also use this knowledge to craft more compelling, intentional designs. So grab your sketchbook and let's begin unlocking the world of semiotics. So if we think about communication as a process, what three elements are needed for communication to take place? Well, we've got a sender, we've got the message, and we've got a receiver. Now that's all well and good if we think of communication as a single line, a direct line of communication, but it isn't always as simple as that. Some things get in the way. Suppose a grandfather says to his granddaughter, "I didn't eat grandmother's chocolate cake." What does that mean? Well, it can mean lots of different things. It could mean, I didn't eat grandmother's chocolate cake. Paul ate grandmother's chocolate cake. It could mean, I didn't eat grandmother's chocolate cake. I sat on grandmother's chocolate cake. I didn't eat grandmother's chocolate cake. I ate Roxy's chocolate cake. I didn't eat grandmother's chocolate cake. I ate grandmother's fruit cake. You can see that the message is the same, but the audience, the receiver, changes, or the emphasis of the message changes. And in semiotics, we don't just have a receiver, we have an addressee. Now, the addressee is who we're intending the message to go to, but the receiver is the person who actually receives the message. So if we wrote a message on a paper aeroplane, folded it and sent it to an intended receiver, but the aeroplane flew off to the side and went to one of our other classmates, they would become the receiver and my addressee didn't get the message. So if things get in the way of the message being sent, it can go to the wrong audience. Using the incorrect visual language or spelling mistakes or the wrong font choice could get in the way of our message being received as we intend it to be received. So what is semiotics? Semiotics is the study of signs and symbols and their use or interpretation. Wow, what are we on about? In art and design, it helps us to understand how visual elements communicate meaning. And with all of this, with all design, with all art and design, we're talking about taking messages and giving them to audiences, even if we don't want them to understand very well. Like with fine art, we might wrap our language up so that the audience has to work really hard to interpret it, or it becomes their own interpretation. With design, we usually have a much more measured outcome. We've got a very clear message that we want to get across, and we can usually measure it by the audience member taking some form of action. So I've got a question for you there. What does the colour red mean? Think about as many different things we can think of that the colour red could mean. So we've got things like passion, love, desire, anger, danger, stop. All of these things that are what we would associate with the colour red. Have a look at this image here of this traffic light. What's wrong with the traffic lights here? Well, apart from the fact they're all on, and traffic lights usually aren't all on, we've got green, amber, and red in that order. And we know, as a Western society, at least, that that is the wrong order. We know that the traffic light should be red, amber, and green. The traffic light is a sign. It gives us that information. We understand that red means stop, red and amber means get ready, and green means go. We associate those colors with that. Those colors could be anything. They could have been any color. We as a society agree what these mean. We've kind of developed that language, that visual language. If I gave my mom a bunch of red roses, or even a single red rose, if I gave my mom a red rose, what could that mean? Well, it might mean that it could be a birthday, and it might be happy birthday. It could basically mean I love you, I miss you, I love you. So giving a red rose to my mum means I love you, kind of familial love. If I gave my wife a red rose, what could that mean? Well, that's probably also going to mean I love you, but not the same way as I love my mum. That'd be a bit weird. So more of a romantic love. It means it's a romantic love. Now, let's say that I'm cheating on my wife, which I'm not, but let's say I'm cheating on my wife with a lover and I give my lover a red rose. That's going to mean something different from when I give it to my mother or I give it to my wife. It might mean, let's see you tonight, she's out. Anyway, the rose remains the same. The object is the same, but the meaning of the rose changes depending on the audience I'm giving it to. And that's the same with our visual language when we're creating images and artistic pieces of work for an audience. The rose is a symbol. It is an object, but it means something. It carries meaning. So a symbol basically represents ideas that we've learned about. So a red rose meaning love. It's really just a flower. It grows out of the ground, but we've attached meaning to it as a society. Now, sometimes that meaning isn't very obvious. And if we don't understand what that means, if we're not from that kind of cultural group, we might not understand what the red rose means. So what does the color red mean? The color red doesn't mean anything at all. It's just refracted light. It doesn't mean anything. It only means something when we agree it means something. So my kids are talking in this kind of like new skibbity-riz language. I'm not the audience, so it means nothing to me, but it clearly means something to them. So it depends on the audience. So what is semiotics? We said semiotics is the study of signs and symbols and their use or interpretation. So what makes something a sign? In semiotics, there are three elements of a sign. We need a signifier, and that is the actual thing, like the rose, the actual object itself, or a word, or even a gesture. What does this mean? We know what that means. So the first bit has got to have a signifier. Then it's got something that's signified, so it's got to carry some kind of meaning with it. So if I pick up this thing that I clean my glasses with, this rag, this isn't a sign because it doesn't mean anything. It's got nothing to it other than it's a rag. Whereas a rose has meaning. We've attached some kind of importance to it. So you've got the signifier, the object, you've got the signified, the thing that it refers to, and then the last thing is the interpretant, and that is the person or collective group of people, a culture of people that agree that that sign means something. So red at a traffic light to us means stop. In other cultures it might not, but in our culture red means stop. So without the interpretant, without us agreeing what it means, it falls down. It isn't a sign because we don't interpret it as anything other than the object, which is a rag. Now I'm going to play you a couple of HSBC adverts, which is about cultural difference.
In some Asian cities, it's considered acceptable for a commuter to fall asleep on the shoulder of a stranger. In New York, it's a different story. Of course, we could always adapt. At HSBC, we never underestimate the importance of local knowledge. HSBC, the world's local bank.
Walking on the beaches, looking at the beaches. Well, I've got that notion, girl, that you've got some sundown lotion in that bottle of yours.
In England, presents are given to the bride and groom to set them up in their new life.
Cheers.
Whereas in Malta,
Thank you very much.
guests can expect a present as a memento of the day.
Bye-bye.
We never underestimate the importance of local knowledge. HSBC, the world's local bank.
So how does semiotics and understanding signs and symbols help you as artists and designers? Well, there's two elements of why this is going to help you. There's the designer you and there's the student you. Okay, we've got those two elements, and it's going to help you in both. Really, as well, the reality you, living your daily life and understanding how messages are being sent to you and how you can decode them can help you understand the world and stop you from being manipulated as well by advertisers and things like that. So how's it going to help you? Well, the designer you is going to help you because it's going to help you make more meaningful messages that impact on a deeper level with your audience, because you're going to understand what these things mean, and it's also going to give you a kind of rich visual language to use. Now, what might this color signify? If we had this as a product, what color would this signify? Now, we're given messages all the time, and sometimes we don't even realize that we're being shown signs that have meaning, and it's almost like under the radar. And it's how advertising works quite well. It kind of makes you feel insecure so that you buy things. So let's have a look at this sort of aqua color here. What sort of associations would we make with this color, or what sort of products might use this color, or whereabouts in the house would we see products with this color? So it's this kind of aqua blue color, and your chances are you're going to see it in the bathroom in things like cleaning products, in toothpaste gel. They use that kind of blue color sometimes in toothpaste gel. I'm going to show you an advert now where this color is used a lot, and it's symbolizing something even though it's not the correct color. You weren't expecting this. So in sanitary products, you'll see this a lot. You'll see that blue color used. If we play you a quick advert of a sanitary product advert, you'll be able to see what I mean.
On period days, I choose a pad that lets me move freely. But at night, I need a different pad that protects me from leaks, especially from the back. Get the full always protection by choosing not only a day pad, but also a night pad that's longer and wider for all-around protection. During the day and during the night, choose complete protection. Choose always day and night pads.
So what is that color signifying? That aqua blue is signifying. So if it's about freshness and cleanliness and clean and fresh, what is it actually communicating to the audience, to its intended audience? It's about, if you don't have these products, then that insecurity of not being seen as being clean, not being fresh, people not it being locked in, kind of hide it away. Now, this is changing in more recent times. We're seeing adverts using different color liquids and things like that, but you'll see it in nappy adverts as well. And I think it was only until like the early 60s where sanitary products could even be advertised on the TV. So we're moving away from it, and there's been some kind of quite funny cultural references. I'll put them in the links below. There's a couple of videos. There's one, Family Guy, where they reference this fact that we use blue liquid for these kinds of things. But really, if you think about it, it's about, the actual message is about you feeling insecure so that you buy a product so this doesn't happen. And if you think about your body is a commodity for advertisers. I can't think of a single thing, particularly for females. I cannot think of a single part of the body where there isn't a product being advertised. And for both men, female, and non-binary people, basically there is not a part of your body that's natural that hasn't got a product for it. So there's stuff for eyebrows, there's stuff for beards, there's stuff for skin, there's stuff for eyelashes, fingernails, arm hair, belly button, everything. There is a product being sold for every part of your body that's natural, that you can't control because it's a natural process. So there's a product that's just recurring and recurring and recurring. So if there's any part of you that can grow or change, there will be a product for it. And look at this sort of messaging through advertising about how it makes you feel about that natural occurrence. Don't get wrinkles, don't get old. That's a key message. So how is semiotics going to help the student you? Well, the key area, first of all, is in your annotation. If you use semiotics to annotate your work, so you use that kind of language, you're going to get much richer, deeper annotation. You're going to actually be analyzing imagery rather than just describing. So we're going to get beyond description. Again, we'll go back to this here, that a semiotic sign has a signifier and a signified and an interpretant. If we get rid of the interpretant, because that's us, So we've got signifier and signified. The signifier is the actual thing, the physical form like a word or a gesture, and the signified is the mental concept or idea that it represents. So we've got the signifier, which means this, which is the signified. Well, Roland Barthes took this concept even further and used the terms denotation and connotation, and this is what we're going to use most of all as design students and art students. Denotation is the literal thing of what it is. So if you were writing annotation, you'd write about this is a picture of a single red rose. It's in color. There is a stem with 2 leaves. You're going to describe it like we normally do in annotation anyway. But the connotation is about what this stuff refers to. What's the associations? What's the emotion that's attached? What does it actually mean? And we're going to take it that step deeper. So if I've got a picture of a single black crow, well, it's a crow, it's got a sharp beak, it's kind of, maybe it's a piece of print work, so it's got like a texture to it. What does that mean? What are all of those elements meaning? So the image of a crow could mean it's about bad luck, or it might be to do with the collective noun, a murder of crows. So you've got the crow, but the beak itself looks sharp and it's almost like a weapon. So it's got a visual metaphor, and that links to murder of crows as well. The bird is black, but its feet are red. It looks like blood splashing up it. So that also refers to murder and murder of crows, that kind of thing. So we've got the object, we describe it, but then we talk about the associations that go with it. What are the connotations? Might it be referring to? And if you go back over your sketchbook and look at all of the images you've been putting in there, when you look at the video on tackling a project, we talk about the fact that it isn't just about sticking images in like a scrapbook. We stick images in and we develop ideas from them. So we analyze it and we develop ideas. So if we're looking at images, we need to make sure we're using denotation and connotation in our annotation. That's going to get you more marks no matter what art course you're doing. If you're going to be analyzing images and then the next step, putting that into practice, you're going to be smashing those higher grades. So it's going to help you as a design and art student too. So let's have a look at how we annotate research using semiotics. First off, we use denotation. We describe what we see. What are we looking at? The literal aspects. And think about the formal elements, the colors, the shape, the size, the layout, the balance, the line, the composition, all of that. What is the style of typography? Is it serif? Is it sans serif? So for instance, we've got examples. The design uses a bold sans serif typeface in black and handwritten script for the subtitle. Or this poster features a red apple in the center surrounded by a white background. So then we move on to connotation and we look at what are the meanings behind these elements, these formal elements? What might they mean? So what are the symbolic, the emotional and cultural meanings? What are the associations? What is the metaphor that's happening in there? So things like symbolic meanings, what does the image, the object, the color or the typeface represent? And also what emotional connections are there? Does it try to evoke a certain feeling? Is it supposed to be something fearful? Is it supposed to be something powerful? Is it supposed to be something uplifting? Think about all of those associations as well. So symbolic meanings and emotional meanings. So let's have some examples of connotation. The red apple symbolizes knowledge and temptation, while the white background represents purity. Or the bold black font conveys authority and seriousness. Or the handwritten subtitle adds a personal, informal touch. So we're not just describing what we're seeing, we're also exploring what the connotations, what are the associations with those different formal elements. So now it's your go. We're going to have a look at a couple of images. We're going to do it together. We're going to semiotically analyze a couple of images and see if we can put it into practice. So let's have a look at this picture here. Let's go with the denotation. So D for describe. Let's look at the denotation. Describe the elements of the image. So I can see that we've got a female, white female girl. She's a female girl. We've got a white female. She's got red hair that's long and wavy. She's got her hands in a prayer position. She's wearing quite a loose, flowing, white, light top. Her legs are crossed in almost a meditative kind of pose, and she's surrounded by lush green plants and foliage. She looks like she's in the middle of all of these plants and foliage, and she's looking slightly up to the light. The light's hitting her face, and she's looking up, and she's got a smile. She looks quite serene, and she's smiling. So that is the denotation, okay? A young woman with long red hair sitting cross-legged in a lush green forest. She's wearing a white flowing top and blue leggings. Her hands are clasped in a prayer position, and she appears calm and focused. The surrounding plants and trees create a dense natural environment, so you can see the kind of things that could be written. Now the exciting bit, what are the connotations for these? What are the connotations of the prayer? What is she looking up at? What does the image kind of mean and represent? Well, for me, it's like she's in a prayer or she's doing a meditation, so it signifies peace and tranquility and spirituality and mindfulness. The green environment, what could that mean? Well, things like nature, so a connection to nature and calmness and then harmony between humans and nature and the natural world. There's also things around growth and tranquility, so it might be about her inner growth even. It could even be symbolizing inner growth. When we look at a concept called polysemy and anchorage, we look at how text and images work together to kind of anchor meaning, but that's coming in a future video. Let's have a look at this one as the last image we'll look at. So describe the form and elements, the denotation. What are the elements of the image? Well, we've got a girl who looks to be distressed, and there are multiple hands gripping onto her face. They're kind of pressing into her skin. She looks restrained by them. Her eyes are wide open. Her mouth is open and she's in a bit of a grimace. There's a black background, so the hands look like they're coming out of the darkness. And what could the connotations of that be? Well, it might be around domestic violence. It might be about being restrained and held back. It might be about being falsely imprisoned. It might even be about a mental health state and how she feels trapped in. Or it could even be about an anxiety and how anxiety makes you feel like there's lots of different pressures upon you. To see how semiotics can enhance your creative process even more, check out my video on researching an art and design project, where we explore the importance of investing time and effort in the early stages of the process, focusing on creative exploration rather than jumping straight to a final design. Semiotics plays a huge role in this too. Understanding how signs and symbols influence your ideas will help you make stronger, more purposeful decisions throughout your art and design projects. So dive into that video next, and as always, remember, greatness awaits those who dare to create.